Good evening, fight fans. Welcome to another great episode of Headkicks and Haymakers. I am your host, Bodkins. Man, what a great weekend in combat sports it was. Of course, with me is none other than my brother from another mother, my guy, Wit. And joining us now, I think it's pretty much official. This is the third straight show, our third esteemed co-host of the show, Bobby Two Blunts. Bobby, what's good, my man? How you doing, brother?
Doing great.
Boys, before we get into the fights that happened Saturday, Uncle Dana dropped some news for us for the next time they go back to Abu Dhabi. We are going to get Ilya Tapora versus Max Holloway. More importantly, it's supposed to be Robert Whitaker against Khamzat Chimaev, but you just go ahead and slide out Khamzat versus vacant to me. And there was a Volkov versus Gane is on there too. Good card. Whit, I'll start with you. Just out of those spots, obviously we'll break down the fights when they happen. But who are you excited to see on that card? You're muted.
Okay, so to be real, I'm excited to see Bobby Knuckles and Khamzat. Of course, everybody knows the story of Khamzat Chimaev. Saved the UFC during COVID. Put on, I want to say almost 4 fights in 2 months.
Two fights in 2 weeks, pretty much.
Two fights in 2 weeks. It was a ridiculous amount of pressure that he had on himself. He made his name going in there and taking guys' hearts, but ever since that period of time, he's really been like, I don't want to say the boogeyman or something, because the boogeyman eventually comes out at night, but he's had health issues, so I don't want to diminish how good of a fighter he was. But every time we get ready to see a Khamzat Chimaev fight, his immune system fails him, and then he has to stay, in his native country, and it's unfortunate. But on the other side, we've seen Robert Whitaker have somewhat of a resurgence of his career. Bikins and I have mentioned it many times. The person he really only lost to of stature is Adesanya. So if he's going to go back on his title run, which it looks like he is, this is an opponent that nobody has seen. That if he takes out, literally, we can say, okay, I get it. Here you go. Let's put you right back where you belong, or where you think you belong. But if Chimaev comes out, walks him down, proves us right, proves us wrong about who he was, what he could have been, I think that's exciting too. So, and of course, when you have fighters, who are Islamic, in Abu Dhabi, there's always a big fuss in the crowd when we hear that. So of course, salam alaikum to all my brothers out there, of course, who are going to be in Abu Dhabi. And I think that's one of the ones, besides, of course, Max and Ilya is exciting. But I think that's one that I want to look at. What
about you, Bobby? Any of those, real quick, too? I didn't mention Ankalaev and Rakic, so that also raises flags of, what's next for Alex Pereira. And reports are they're waiting to see what happens next Saturday to kind of book Alex, but your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't really buy that with them doing the Izzy thing. I do think the winner of the Ankalaev fight is probably gonna face Potent. So I think that's realistic. I think all that announcement told us was that Potent isn't fighting until the end of the year, if not next year. But we'll see if they change that. I think that's one of the better cards of the year, honestly, from top to bottom, with the main event. That is probably my most anticipated fight. And then ironically, the co-main event was my original most anticipated fight before, it obviously fell out and stuff. Hopefully that happens, but, it's kind of a 50-50 coin flip at this point. So we'll see. But I'm really looking forward to Ilya versus Max. I think that's got fight of the year written all over it. The UFC obviously had to pull out a big gun when Islam had hand surgery. So, they came with the best fight that they probably could have made, and I think they nailed it on that one.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Ilya Max is that's got fight of the year. Max has only lost to one featherweight since 2013. Other than Alex Volkanovski at featherweight, his last loss was to Conor McGregor in 2013. So, this is the true king of featherweights, right now against the champ. So it'll be interesting. I'm so excited for that fight, and I can't wait to talk about it when we get closer. The Whitaker thing is crazy. It's funny to me because he came out and said, like, I asked for that fight. I told him rebook it. He came out in an interview today and said, like, I told the UFC, let's do it. Because, like, I thought for sure he would just kind of sit and maybe see what happens and try to catch a title fight. Hey, Sean Strickland, it's not going to do you any if Witt goes in and crushes Hamzat, it's not going to do Sean any favors, who's very said, I'm just going to sit and wait for a title shot. I think if Bobby beats Hamzat and he does it convincingly, like, that should project him to who's next, even though he has losses to Izzy and DDP.
Bro, you make a lot of sense, but UFC isn't about making sense. It's about making money. And I think that when you put into the perspective that he lost to two champions, right? The former champion, the current champion, it makes it somewhat of a like one of those, okay, let's do it. Like, it's less of a decision to say we want Sean Strickland, who, although is a really polarizing figure, really cool guy, somebody I like to hear him talk and get his rhetoric out. To me, it's more exciting to put Witt in the ring with whatever happens with the outcome of Adesanya and DDP. It to me that. But now, don't get me wrong. Do I think Sean Strickland is deserving of a title shot? Of course I do. But what's more exciting to the people? What do more people want to put in? Pay-per-view buys and shares. I really think that Dana's going to go the other way when it comes to that. And unfortunately, Sean will be left in the wayside, man. And he may have to, I don't want to say reinvent the wheel, but he's got to do something to wow us.
He's going to have to fight, to me. I think he's going to have to take a fight.
Yes, Bobby, he's going to have to wow us. He's going to, it's unfortunate that his fighting style isn't sexy. It's not the sexy style, but he wins fights. You know what I'm saying? So that's just the way it is. Shout out to Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson isn't a sexy boxer, but he wins fights. And then they talk trash about him right after he's finished. So, hey.
Yeah, I kind of disagree in the sense that I do think the main reason Whitaker took this fight against Hamzat is because he knew there wasn't a Strickland fight available, and he knew the UFC was going with him after that, because they have a rematch on both sides after that fight happens. And I just think it's too much of a layup. Now, obviously, if he, if Whitaker, gets a great, showing, he could definitely leapfrog. But will it be too late by then? Because that fight ain't until like October, and this middleweight fight is next week. So it would not shock me. Like, imagine if Izzy wins that fight. What's the first thing he's going to do? I would think it'd be get on the mic and call out the one guy that, beat him in a unanimous decision. And so I don't disagree that I could see the UFC deciding to eventually go with Rob, like, especially if he gets a Chimaev win. But at the same time, it's just with the timing of it, I could easily see them kind of doing both, because that fight isn't happening until October.
Yeah, and bro, you make some good points. In my mind, when I'm thinking, when you say it that way, who would, if Izzy call out, if Izzy won, who would he call out? Just like you said, him having that one loss to someone other than Poatan. I think that you make a lot of sense with that one. But again, I we've seen the UFC step in and put dollars way in front of what makes sense or what looks like should happen. So
yeah, I do think Sean.
That could happen,
I do agree that Bobby is like if Sean's got to want Izzy to win, because I think that Izzy would want to call out Sean. I don't know if he wants to fight Witt a third time. That seems kind of messed up. Yeah. So it does make sense, and I'm not like I've kind of said that before.
I do think Dricus would want a different fight if he wins. Like I could see him running back the UFC, the rematch against Strickland if the UFC wanted it. But I don't think that would be his first choice at all. He would probably want to face another contender because in his mind he beat Sean Strickland. So why does he need to fight him again? Where Strickland's like, I already beat him. I want my rematch. So I mean, I could see both sides of it. I do acknowledge Strickland is playing a dangerous game, because waiting around doesn't always help you. But at the same time, I don't think he's really waiting around as much people make it sound. I think a lot of that stuff is just memes and stuff on social media. And that's the real loud noise of that. But, we'll see how that plays out. I'm excited for that card next week.
Yeah, I am too. That's in October, so it'll be interesting. Hopefully that's during the day. I think they usually have that during the day, so it'll be interesting whether it's going to be at nighttime or daytime. They've done it both ways. It's funny because I watched the interview, speaking of nighttime, before we get into this thing. They asked Dana about the whole Bilal thing, and Dana was saying, I was just tired. I didn't really, and I was mad that I updated the bonuses. And, and we had 7 straight decisions. Well, if you're fucking tired, Dana, stop putting the card. How do you think the fighters feel and the fans in the crowd feel? And you're over here bitching about the time. You're the one that set the fucking time, guy. To me, it's a cop out. And then if you didn't like the time, then why was the time the time? You're the boss. Why are you pissed off that the time is what it is when you could have easily just said, hey, we're moving it to a daytime for myself and everybody else. Instead, we got Krabby Patty Dana after the fight and the not so happy giving the belt to Bilal.
Hey man, let me tell you what changed his whole mindset when he went to the back and whoever's in charge of his media marketing said, "Oh my God, we're on 10.5 million views right now with the belt with the strap put on." And then of course the big thing was it was announced that the Bilal getting the belt got 22 million views. I think that's a big deal. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, Uncle Dana in the middle of the night without his coffee, who probably got the wrong drink or somebody spilled something.
And it was his birthday. And it was his birthday.
Yeah, and it was his birthday. You know what I'm saying? Something happened. He wasn't in the best mood when it happened. And that picture will be immortalized. Dana in the background, just grumpy as hell, putting the belt on Bilal Muhammad.
Bobby, you got something to add there? Go ahead.
I'm surprised he was there. I knew he was going to be at that event, but I mean, that was a brutal time slot. But, you mentioned that from that Aioli interview. That interview was wild. It was almost like he was like, okay, I'm on normal sleep now, so let me justify all the crazy shit I said in the last interview, but I'm going to say more wild shit. That was pretty entertaining.
Yeah. It's that, what is it? What's the thing that him and Joe Rogan taking? Alpha Brain. That Alpha Brain was wearing off that night. That's what it was.
Yeah. It was just real quick. We got to stay on the Dana thing. Does John Jones got some sort of dirt on him or what? Because the vitriol that he has about how John Jones is this pound for pound champion, and if you don't have him, you don't know dick about fighting, you don't know dick about anything. I mean, he repeats it in every interview. His own organization has John Jones third, and he's pissed off about it. How they voted. I don't get it. I guess 2 things he'll always defend is John Jones and slap.
Yeah.
Not the slap, bro. The slap. Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, I think it's just because he's on you know, he's so active on social media. He sees all the discourse of like
Yeah.
what people think and stuff. So like when he gets in these like moments, he'll just like really lash out because, you know, this reporter will ask him like a question, like mentioning Tom, and then he'll think of like some meme that he saw about John Jones and be like, well, let me tell you, he's pound for pound. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's what a lot of it is, you know?
Well, then he said Tom is on the way up. Tom's not on the way up. He is up. He's your interim heavyweight champion. I don't know how much more up you can fucking be than what Tom Aspinall is right now. He said Tom's on his way up. John Jones is at the top. Tom's on his way up. What do you mean he's on the way up?
Yeah.
He's your interim heavyweight champion. He's been more active than your current champion. He's knocked out everybody.
I think when he says up, he's meaning like Tom is on the way up in the annals parts of history. Like Tom is making the name for himself that John Jones has. And we're not taking, and once again, although I did not pick Tom Aspinall, I know how good he is. I respect that. We talk about this at least once a month on this show. I think that somewhere in, you know, whatever he had to go through, whatever Dana had to go through, making fights, picking. Whenever it was John Jones, he knew he could put his money on it. He knew he could count on it, and he came through and he stuck on that. It's almost like you know, if you got a refrigerator full of stuff and you're hungry, you're gonna go what you know, right? I don't care what's in there. You're gonna pick what you like to eat and what has sustained you long enough. Sometimes I can't lie to you. Although there are other things in my closet, in my cabinet, I will just reach for a cup of noodles. Why? Because that cup noodle is going to get me through. I know it ain't going to take but 2.5 minutes. It's not a lot. It's probably not really healthy for me, but damn it, I'm full and I can go to sleep. John Jones is cup noodles for UFC, ladies and gentlemen. Period.
He's cup noodles for Dana, I think. Bobby, what's your thoughts there?
I mean, that's when the interview came really counterintuitive because he kind of like he wasn't going back on what he said, like saying like, "Oh, Tom is absolutely next." But it was just like the way he said it. And like, obviously it got clipped, but like we saw the whole thing and it still sounded kind of like, well, why aren't you
still sounded
like,
wild.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, why aren't you just like upping them? And again, I think that interview was on Monday morning. Everyone redid the rankings and it just like furthered his anger about it. Like, because, you know, and Ioli loves that shit. Like, he's like one of the few people like Dana gives full access to. And like, I feel like the interview, like all of his questions were so like, they were all designed to piss him off. It wasn't like, it didn't feel like a genuine conversation. He's like, okay, I need to get, you know, the most like views out of this. And he definitely succeeded. He knows what he's doing.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I don't get it. I don't know how you can say somebody's on their way up when he's your heavyweight champion. But maybe Witt's right. Maybe he's talking about legacy wise. But to me, I view it as like right now.
Long term.
I do think that's what he meant as far as that goes. He meant more because it goes back like that's when he was going on the, you know, whole once again, he seems to get the pound for pound confused with, you know, the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
You know, that's a lot of people's like number one complaint most of the time.
Yeah, we're not talking. I will admit John Jones is the greatest of all time, but pound for pound, I don't think so right now. You know, that's just a difference. You know what I mean? Two totally different things. Let's get into the fight Saturday. You guys were correct for the second Saturday in a row. I got to stop. I got to slide with you guys. Jesus, I'm hoping are going against you two in the main event here. You guys picked Umar. It seemed like to me the fight was Umar would get Corey down. Corey would kind of get back up and then just right back down again, then back up. Like Corey had moments like this. It was you could tell it was going to go kind of decision, but you know, Corey just couldn't do quite enough. Umar is now number 2 ranked bantamweight in the world. Is he next for Sean, the winner, Sean and Marat, Bobby?
Yes. You know, I think the most telling thing I don't know if you saw Corey's post-fight interview, but they interviewed him, and you know, credit to him for taking that fight. But I think he called it perfectly. He's like, he'll probably fight for the title next, and he'll probably win. And I think that's really all you need to hear, because
Mhm.
that performance was so like well thought out. The way he pretty much set up the striking, and then he would engage to do grappling to pretty much win the rounds. The second he had him taken down, he already had the back, like almost on every takedown. It was wild. Like, credit to Corey for being able to get up, but he was essentially playing defense the entire fight. I agreed with the one judge's scorecard. I thought I had it 50-45. But, you know, I think a lot of other people in that division get finished in that situation and don't get back up. So, I mean, Corey needs to get just as much credit for that. But, yeah, I definitely think he's next. I do not need to see him fight Figgy. I think he would personally wash Figgy, so I just don't need to see it. I mean, if Figgy's meant for it, have him fight Umar when he eventually gets the title, because I think that's eventually where we're going.
Yeah, Bobby, what are your thoughts? I mean, wait, your thoughts. I don't know what I said, Bobby. Bobby
thoughts? Said it, bro. To be honest with you, I'll say this: we all kind of was high on Sandhagen's wrestling, right? We all were like, "This is if you want to put one of those Dagestani guys in there with somebody, it's Corey." And somehow, some way, and I think it was the judges' scorecards gave Corey credit. You know what I'm saying? One or two of them gave him some credit for putting out that much of an effort. For me, it's another one of those examples. Like we saw Bilal do not as much of a job as setting up the takedowns with the striking, but I saw flashes of what they all do well. And when you get those guys either on your back or at your knees, trying to have you up against the cage, trying to stop you from rolling so you can get out of those takedowns, it's really difficult. And we got to see one of the best ones at it, like literally. And to me, when you put up the spectrum of, okay, well, we got Merab and we got Sean. If it's Sean, are we worried? Or are we less worried if it's Merab? I think both of them could get taken in that manner, in my opinion. You know, but
that was going to be my next question. Really, to me, the Merab versus Umar matchup excites me more for some odd reason than the Umar Sean fight, simply because Merab is such pressure too, right, in heavy wrestling, and like both of those guys aren't going to go like back down. Like that's like it would be interesting. The chess match between Merab and Umar, because both of them love to put the pressure on. Both kind of love to go to the ground. I mean, we just saw Merab pick up Olympic gold medalist in Henry Cejudo like it was nothing, and throw him down, walk him clear across the octagon and throw him down to the ground. Like, you know what I mean? Like him and Umar, I think I think was a funner matchup and more heavier chess match than. You know, then Merab and then it would be Sean and Umar. But if Sean, we know Sean's got the fist that can shut somebody's lights out every time he steps in there.
And as of recently, he's been doing really well with takedown defense. So is it that good? I don't know, but you have a point though. His hands, if he lets some hands go, that changes a lot, especially in times of danger. He's done that. He's done it on multiple occasions where it looks as though, oh my God, this could be the thing that tilts him over, and then bam, he lands that left cross, and it changes the whole direction of the fight.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Definitely that's why I think Umar is next, because you could do either. I think both are really intriguing. Like the story on the O'Malley side, oh, the UFC would love that shit.
Yeah.
They would pretty much market it as Conor Khabib 2. And I do agree with you. Like the more interesting fight probably would be Merab and Umar, just like with the clash of styles there. But at the same time, I do think Sugar could not do just as well like in the style clash, but I think it would be equally as entertaining. and you're both going to get an insane build for him. So that's why, like, I think he's just a layup to fight whoever wins that Sphere card.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's probably next. The rankings suggest he's next. To me, let me ask you guys this, because this was kind of like you mentioned Figgy. He looked phenomenal against Cheeto, which we all kind of had. Yeah. I would love to see him and Peter Yan, or him and even Sandhagen. I like both of those fights. But is the 135 division the best division in the UFC? Because to me, it hands down, it's the deepest and best division.
Bro, when you said a mouthful there, because as I'm looking at the rankings, right, if you take out Cejudo, and you really could kind of mix, like, Boggle, y'all remember Boggle? You shake the thing up and then the letters kind of fall into place. You could almost do that with what you got at 1 through 5 and still somehow make really good fights, really good, meaningful, not just good fights for entertaining, but meaningful fights that would lead to really good champions. So you may have a point with it being like the most dangerous. Yes, you could lose any given night to one of these guys, of course. But yeah, I agree with you on that one for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a lot of people's consensus for sure. I mean, most dangerous. I mean, look at, the difference in like ranking and stuff. I know a lot of people really enjoy flyweight, and it doesn't really get talked about that much. Sure. But like technique wise, I know a lot of people really prefer that, unless it's Mikhaev apparently. And, yeah, no, totally. I think that's definitely, it's probably like one of the most exciting as far as when you see the top and you see all the champions like starting to shuffle, or when you want like a title change because the division's so stacked. I mean, it fits all those bills.
Yeah, and if you really look at it, like all these guys at the top of the bill, you're like, oh, that could see them becoming champion or have been champion. Merab, Umar, Peter Yan's a former champion and could still become champion again. Corey Sandhagen, I think could be champion. Figgy he's looked so good at 135. I mean, we're looking at Henry Cejudo, former champion, Cheeto, who fought for the champion just fought for the championship at 7. Jose Aldo at 8 is, obviously a former flyweight or featherweight champion, but has also fought for the title at then you got Rob Font all the way down at 10. Like, Rob Font is a legit good bantamweight. Like, it's just so good. And you got some up and comers in there, and like Mario Batista, Jonathan Martinez, a couple other guys in that bantamweight, that 135. It's stacked. It got more cloudy, I think, with the Figgy win. Your guys' thoughts on the Figgy win, because I thought that was, to me, those the Umar and the Figgy win were the talking points of last Saturday. We'll start with you, Bobby. What's your thoughts just on the Figgy win and kind of what's next for him?
Yeah, I think you called it with the Yan fight. I would love that matchup as far as what's next. As far as his performance, I think he did everything right. Cheeto fought a pretty good fight himself, and Figgy just looked like he was a little bit faster, and obviously, dropping him in the third definitely, helped his case. I didn't really think there was a chance that Cheeto was going to get the, win, or as far as it went to decision, right?
Yeah.
Decision,
Figgy won the first and third round. Cheeto kind of won the second round. That's kind of how it went.
Yeah, I mean, I really, feel for Cheeto. That was a tough fight. He had a great showing, but he just lost. I do wonder, if it's 5 rounds, what do those other 2 rounds look like? I think Figgy looked great, so I didn't think he was really going to slow down or anything. But I really wonder what they do with Cheeto next. A little bit more than Figgy, but I think you could do Figgy fighting either Yan or give him the loser of O'Malley and Merab.
Yeah, I was going to say I like that for Sandhagen, the loser of the title fight.
That makes sense.
You know, you Sandhagen's right there, and he's a world class guy. And he hasn't fought either one of those guys, and especially if Sean loses, like you still get the matchup. You still get the great matchup as well. So, and that fight's next month. So, kind of the timeline matches up. What about you, Whit?
Yeah, you guys kind of picked mine with what I was thinking about. But in the same sense, like even the losers from this last week's event, like we still think highly of, you know, how we were talking about, you know, Cheeto, of course, you know what I'm saying, still having a place to where it's not like he's going to go so far down the rankings he's just lost in the sauce. But of course, this was a Davidson Figueroa night. You know, we gotta respect it. Somewhere up there, what y'all say, Sandhagen for Davidson?
We said Peter Yan.
Okay, Peter Yan. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that's what I was saying. I thought you said Sandhagen for it. But okay, if you're taking Peter Yan, that's a nice one. You know what I'm saying? Stylistically, you got two guys who, if necessary, will stand up there and take each other out. But at the same time, you know, Peter Yan, man, is that wrestling that we kind of want to see where it goes if we throw him in there in the ring with. They
just stand and bang. Figgy and Peter Yan, like that would just be sign me up. Like they would just stand and throw hands.
And listen, to a degree, that's what we got the chance to see him do against Cheeto. We got to see it. It looked like a younger version of him, and I can honestly say it looked like he was completely ready for it. And then, you know, on the back end, you know, and of course, we'll talk about that probably, even though we're not going to talk about it long. But go ahead, yeah, that's what I wanted to say about that.
Bobby, you mentioned kind of what's next for Cheeto. I was kind of looking at the rankings coming off the 2 losses. I think a guy like Song Young Dong makes sense. You know, kind of blow him in the rankings. Somebody like that, or maybe like a Mario Batista or Kyler Phillips. I know, I believe Mario just lost to Jose Aldo, so they maybe not wanting him to fight up again. But you know, it is interesting to what happens to Cheeto. I think he needs some time. I don't think we'll see him the rest of this year. You know, maybe early part of next year.
Yeah, we were just saying how that division is, stacked and filled with killers. So I mean, that's kind of the other problem. It's not like there are too many like layup matchups for him. No. I don't think he'd want to fight too far down. But I think you led with it. Probably the best thing for him is time. I think he looked great in his performance. I don't in any way think he took this fight too soon or anything, even though he took quite a bit of damage from O'Malley in that last fight.
To his own admission, he said he thought afterwards, he's like, I probably came back a little too soon.
Really?
Yeah, he said that.
Yeah, he said that on his Instagram.
Well, I mean, if he's saying it, he obviously knows his body. So I'll lead with what he's saying then.
Bro, he knows, bro. He knows.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put him in like the category of it doesn't matter how many times he loses because we're still going to love him, because I think he still is competing. But, I think the most important thing for him is just take some time and get another W, and he can get back on track.
Yeah. What about you? Wait, you got any other different options or thoughts on Cheeto?
I mean, we pretty much summed it up, man. He's somewhat of a fan favorite. He's coming off of these 2 losses, 2 tough losses. When, like you said, you threw the Song Your Dong out. Somebody else just took a loss. But then when you even when you go further down, you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't want to throw him all the way to 14 or 15. But when you put him further down, once again, this is still there is, Rob said it, there's no layups. There's no layups. If we go even to 11 at Rob Font, 10 at Rob Font, he somehow, some way, I think is best for Cheeto because we care. And like just show up at some events, man. Show up to UFC events. Have my boy Bobby Baklava, aka that effing guy, hang out with you, and be there because he's a figure. But do we want to see him lose and drag himself out of the annals? No, I don't want to see him do that. So this is it for him this year. Let's let him rest until February, March. See what happens.
Yeah, I agree. Bobby, you mentioned about rest and leaving it all out. Hopefully we saw the last of Tony Ferguson on Saturday.
Oh, you got it.
I mean, he put the one glove down. The only way Tony Ferguson could retire. Then he kind of like backtracked it afterwards. Was like, I'm not retiring, but please, Tony, like we don't need to see you in the UFC. We don't need to see you. I think Dana. Why do they keep booking him? That's what I don't understand. Like,
I think Dana's like, this is it. This is going to be the one, and he keeps not saying that this is it. The only way El Kukui would retire is to not retire. That's what he's doing. I'm going to put one glove down, but I'm going to keep one shoe on. I'm going to unwrap my left hand. I'm going to go in the back and I'm going to talk to my wife and kids. That doesn't mean you're retiring. That doesn't mean you're not going to come back. But in all honesty, still, even though we're on a 4-fight losing streak,
eight fight.
Oh my God, I'm
Double
cutting it in half.
Double
I'm trying to say, like, it is still a storied career. It's still a historic one. He had one of the craziest runs, but it's really.
We went on a 12-fight winning streak and then 8-fight losing streak. That's wild.
It's crazy, but it's what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I was actually watching that one on a tad bit of a delay because I was coming back from work. And so like I had like all my notifications turned off and everything. And I was watching it. And then you see, obviously, the fight go down. And the second the fight ended, I just turned it off on my phone because I was going to, switch it to the other TV. And I didn't want to see the afterwards because I assumed he was not going to retire or do anything like that. And then afterwards, when I heard like people were like, oh, he put down one glove, like I literally thought people were trolling me. And then I look up and see that that's what actually happened. And I think we definitely saw his last fight in the UFC. I do not think it will be his last actual fight because he's a competitor. And, fortunately, I can't tell him to hang it up or anything like that. I hope he can just find a different avenue to maybe still be involved in the sport. But
nobody can tell him to put it down.
He doesn't really seem to be that interested in coaching. Maybe that would really help him. But, with where it is right now, I kind of look at it as two separate instances, because like the Tony Ferguson before, like, that was just another killer. And then he tripped on the cord and all this stuff happened with the pandemic. He literally saved, we were all watching nothing for, I can't even remember how long during the pandemic. And this dude saved us. Not only that, left a piece of himself in that octagon, like in that specific fight, and then has continued to just perform. So, I mean, I just wish the best for him, but, we'll see how it goes. I'm glad he seems to be in good spirits, at least, like you look at him, it doesn't seem like it's bothering him at all. So, mind over matter.
Yeah, go. Amen to that. Amen to that. Real quick, and some other MMA news before we get to some boxing stuff. Francis Ngannou is finally slated to make his MMA return, his PFL debut in October. He has taken on, is it Fiera? Is that how you say his name? I mean, that guy's a big son of a bitch.
Behemoth.
Yes. I just call him the problem. His nickname's El Problema, so it's a lot easier than me butchering his name because I know.
Yeah, the El Problemo. He could be a problem. I mean, he knocked out Ryan Bader and made Ryan Bader look like ease. But first of all, is this too soon for Francis? Coming back from the knockout, obviously the passing of his son. But he is finally making. He hasn't fought in what was it 2021? 2020?
It's at least 2 years. Like 2.5 years.
Yeah, I think it's at least 2 years as far as his last MMA fight. Because his last MMA fight was against Gane on one knee.
Yeah,
and but yeah, I don't think. I think he took the right amount of time in his mind. I don't think the PFL like put pressure on him or anything. They've seemed pretty lenient with everything he's been doing, like letting him go see the boxing. I bet they're happy that it's finally booked and stuff like that.
It's been almost 3 years. It's January 22nd, 2022. So by the time he fights in October, over 2.5 years.
Yeah, he said, I saw in an interview today, he said he contemplated retirement, but then with the stuff, the tragedy with his son, it made him want to keep fighting on. And, normally in those situations, it really scares me when a guy talks about retirement because it's like 1 foot in and out the door. But, with that other motivation he spoke of, I think he will be more than synced in and locked in. But at the same time, I don't think it's a crazy layup for him because he has technically not fought in MMA in 2.5 years. El Problema is hungry. To my knowledge, he's making $2 million for his purse. I mean, that's what they originally announced. I have no reason to assume that
Francis is making that, or El Problema.
No, Problema. Yeah, Problema makes a guaranteed $2 billion. That was one of the main. When he was.
That was I remember now. When Francis when he went to the PFL, was like the person he's fighting. It gets like almost as much as his purse.
Yeah. They get a guaranteed purse, and the PFL has done everything that they said they would for him. They're following through with PFL Africa and stuff. I might clown them on their weak production and stuff, but as far as this, they seem to have dotted their I's and crossed all their T's. I'd be lying to you if I said this is the matchup I want to see. This is clearly the best matchup they have, and I'm fine with that. So he is the guy. But, there's some things that I guess aren't even possible. So, this is the option we have. So let's get to it. The thing I found more interesting was Dana, like a half hour later, announced Moyacano and Saint Denis. And I'm wondering if that's a coincidence or if he was trying to step on it,
Dana's always going to step on stuff that just like when Canelo said he was fighting in the same day the Sphere card was, then it's like, oh, we'll have an announcement tomorrow. Then Canelo says he's fighting. Now here's my announcement. Here's all the fights on the Sphere card right here. So he's always trying to kind of poo-poo things and step on things, stay in the limelight. Make sure we're always thinking UFC first. Francis on Joe Rogan, you mentioned he talked about retiring. He says he has 4 fights left in him, 2 in boxing, 2 in MMA. This would cross off one of the MMAs, obviously. And then who knows what happens his next MMA.
I think the only way he gets 2 fights in MMA is if one of them is like John Jones or Tom Aspinall. I honestly think after he does this, he's just going to finish out his career in boxing, or he very well, who knows? He might want to just go out on top and retire. It's, I hate really speculating on stuff like that, especially in this circumstance. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happened. And especially on the Problema side, because, if you look at it through him, like, I thought that Ryan Bader fight was an insane mismatch.
Yeah, it was an insane mismatch. Yes.
Like when that happened and everyone was like, "Oh my God!" It's like, he was fighting Ryan Bader, and look at the size of him. Like,
Ryan Bader's really a light heavyweight. Ryan Bader's like a real 205 or not a.
He's always been able to take care of the unathletic heavyweight division, and that guy is far from unathletic, and you saw what happened to him. So
and if you're El Problema, you can shock the world. You know what I mean? You can shock the world if you go in there and beat Francis at PFL. And man, how Dana would think it would be the greatest thing in the world if Francis lost the fight to El Problema.
Listen, man, the main thing is to think that Francis will go in there and take care of this wrecking ball, which is Renan Ferreira. somehow, some way, infuriating Dana White even more. You want to do? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel somehow, some way, this is almost like his swan song. He's just like you guys mentioned. We're talking 4 fights, two MMA, 2 boxing. This may be his greatest challenge. You know what I'm saying? And in reality, the thing I've been talking about to other people, just who are just regular fans like me, or just regular guys who have conversations. Nobody got a chance to see Ferreira's chin yet. And if Francis can reach it, this is going to be the test. If Francis can reach his face, it may be a whole nother fight. I've seen many a big man take losses because nobody has ever gotten a chance to touch their chin up until that point. And for me, I think that this, Ferreira against Bader, he went in there, jumped on top of Bader, fight was over. I think Ferreira is going to be way more cautious with Francis. It's going to take so much more time. He's going to have a way different approach. Even though he's a huge behemoth of a man, I think he's going to be way more afraid of Francis Ngannou than he was of Ryan Bader. So, excuse children that I just gave him some candy. But but seriously though, I really think that Ferreira is going to have a totally different approach to fighting Francis Ngannou, as anybody would who is trying to fight Francis Ngannou. I'm worried about his left hand, his right hand, his kneecap, elbow, anything attached to his body that could knock me out. I'm gonna worry about it. So, but I'm excited to see him back in the ring and what can happen for somebody as great as, especially after something like this. Losing your child. I've never felt that. I hope I never do. I hope none of you ever do. But I can only imagine that, the inspiration that it has to put in your body to do what you are best at, and what type of fire he has lit under him in order to make this match, happen. So I'm excited to see it end here. Because we know we're gonna hit him. Somebody gonna hit the man. I don't know who yet.
Well, so if El Problema wins, does he get an automatic UFC contract?
He might. Dana might have to bring something up for him.
Like, could you I really hope we don't see that, because I can't even imagine, who knows, maybe he will just let it be. But I didn't even think about you made a good point. Who knows if this moment is too big for El Problema? Because honestly, fighting Ryan Bader is just like fighting Ryan Bader. Those, bullshit super belts mean nothing. So, granted, I understand he's won the PFL tournament, and that's $1 million tournament. So I'm not trying to diminish his accomplishments, but this is a whole different, this is probably going to be the biggest event the PFL has ever put on. He's probably going to have to do the most media he's ever done. And, Francis has gotten kind of used to all that in Abu Dhabi and Saudi Arabia. So, I didn't even consider that aspect of it. So, it's an intriguing fight. I'm more interested they put it on pay-per-view.
It is going to be on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
It's going to be, and then I think Cyborg and
Pacheco.
Pacheco, I was going to say Pacheco are the co-main, I believe so far from that same card. Before we get out of here, we do know Bud Crawford won on Saturday. You stayed up for the whole marathon, the Eminem concert.
Oh my God.
I could not stay up and watch it. I love Eminem too. That's my favorite artist of all time, but I was just too tired Saturday. Couldn't. But nonetheless, Bud wins. Let me ask you this, because I was kind of reading on that fight. Bud took some punches, obviously going up in weight.
Yes.
Worrisome if it's him and Canelo, because, those Canelo shots are going to hurt a lot worse, because you're also going to have to go up more in weight. Seems like there might be some worrisome now of Canelo Bud after that performance on Saturday. I'll let you take it away.
So look, bro, what I'm saying, first of all, this is one of the things that took place before we even got to the fight, right? Was the the main card was crazy. Let's just put it like that. When we think about the Riyadh season, the oil barons, salam alaikum to everybody over there, putting on a fight card. This is what we got with Isaac Cruz losing to Jose Venezuela, super middleweight title fight. That was one of the first crazy dominoes we got a chance to see. Martin Bacol knocking out Big Baby Jared Anderson. Another one that was very surprising. Then, of course, seeing Andy Ruiz have a draw with Big Baby Jarrell Miller. That was another one. So that's before we even got to the main event. We had, if you were around long enough to watch all of it, we had some really, really good fights. And then the WBC said, "Oh, let's give His Excellency Turkey Al Sheikh a trophy." But then they said, "We're going to give Turkey Al Sheikh a belt." And then they said, "No, you know what we're going to do? We're going to let Turkey Al Sheikh have his favorite artist, Eminem, perform 5 songs. I think it was really 3, and somehow, some way, in between that, we got ring walks, and then we got anthems."
He also gave away a car.
Oh my God! Thank you, bro. He gave away a car. I'm in here. My wife is walking around, and she was like, "They're giving away a car to boxing match?" I said, "Yeah, baby, they're giving away a car. We gotta go." So I don't know what they do in Saudi Arabia, but they giving away a car, and they didn't give a car to somebody close neither. They gave them to a guy way up in the rafters.
Hey, if you paid that kind of money, give me the car so I can resell it and probably earn my money back.
Who are you talking about? Wherever he was at, they took them 20 minutes for him just to walk to the ring. So I think that was cool. But what I think everybody who was watching kind of paid attention to was somewhere in there we lost all of the steam that the fighters built up for the main event. Every last ounce of sweat that you put into starting a fight, they were cold. And Bud did not look good in at least the first 3. Let's take 2 out of 5 or the first half of the fight. And I'm personally going, come on, Bud, kick in, whatever. Now, don't get me wrong. Madrimov is very crafty. Madrimov did not stay still. Madrimov had a lot of head movement. He looked very unorthodox. He looked so much like something that you wouldn't see in let's say a Canelo fight or Errol Spence fight. It looked very much like he had a plan to throw Crawford off of his game. But Crawford did eventually catch a bit of a rhythm. He did get warm. The punching exchanges weren't that of what we saw in the Errol Spence fight, but they were very, very close. And when I say exchanges, they were exchanges. Bud was taking some, but Bud was also giving some. And then right closer to when the championship rounds kind of matter, we saw what makes Bud Crawford really good because he became extremely evasive, but at the same time of being evasive, his counter punching was on point. Once again, the punches did get landed on up. Yeah, see, talk about the punches, baby. The punches did get landed, on the opposite end, but somehow, some way, we got an example of Madrimov not being a slouch of a fight, and I think it's good. Now, another thing that was I'm gonna throw out there is Turkey Al Sheikh is not stupid. You know what he said live on TV in front of hundreds of millions of people? He said, Canelo's people have the paperwork. The fight has been sent in. They already plan on having a Bud Crawford fight. Now, somehow, some way, we got to get on to what happens with the next fight. No, we're not going to see Canelo Benavidez. But, hey, Canelo got a fight in September. What's going to happen with that one is definitely going to play into what we see with Crawford Canelo. Because Turkey Al Sheikh is somewhat basically in the mindset of, hey, I don't care where they fight it at, but it's already been sent in. So, am I excited for it? Hell yeah. But we definitely have to not sleep on, I think it's Berlanga in September. And that's an exciting fight too. So, as we get closer, of course, we'll get more information on like the undercard and stuff. But Berlanga, Canelo right now is what we're looking at in September. And they already had their press conferences. And boy, is everybody hot about it, okay? Berlanga's calling everybody out low-key. And he's talking about Benavidez. He's talking about Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant, Caleb Plant don't play. Caleb Plant slapped people in the back of fights. Every 2 fights, Caleb Plant slapping somebody in backstage area. So shout out to Caleb Plant for sticking up for himself. But we are excited to see Canelo in the ring, but which also will lead to eventually possibly Bud Crawford and Canelo. Maybe in Vegas. I think that was one of the biggest points was Saudi Arabia sometimes does not look exciting visually, but LA looked visually fight worthy. You know what I'm saying? There were people there. It was exciting. There was music. There was noise. But when they do it in Saudi Arabia, it's a different level of spectacle. So I'm excited to see where they go from here. But I think it was a good fight. Let's put a cap on it. I think that Crawford Madrimov was a good fight. I think that the fight card was a good fight. I think that was a great example of what the people at Riyadh season do when it comes to boxing. Eddie Hearn, mastermind. Somehow, some way is standing in Turkey Al-Sheikh's shadow, but he's been such a motivator of boxing fights for decades that now he knows, hey, look, I don't got to even make no noise. I can stand right here next to this guy and still make a lot of money. I think that's a lot of promoters' problems in boxing. You know what I'm saying? Oscar De La Hoya still wants to be Oscar and talk. You know what I'm saying? Floyd still wants to be Floyd and wear 40 chains and talk. Eddie Hearn, you've seen Eddie Hearn maybe twice. But I bet you Eddie Hearn's name is on all that paperwork. I guarantee you. And the fights got done. So I'm excited to see more high-level boxing in the future, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, Canelo's team, to my knowledge, turned down Turkey's offer because he came out today pretty much saying he's no longer interested in making the fight. And I think that's pretty much him just saving face, like saying, when you want to play Canelo, I'll be here.
They said that, I was going to say, Bobby, I heard $100 million. He offered Canelo $100 million. $100 million, I'll fight my mama.
Yeah, it seems like Canelo, I don't know if he's like rubbed the wrong way with how Turkey does business, but that would be my only reasoning for turning down that type of money, maybe he's just focused on a fight right now. So, I thought that card definitely delivered. It felt long, but there was a lot of combat on. I mean, I watched the BKFC after that, so it was like 12 hours of fights. Yeah. How did you score the Andy Ruiz card?
To be honest, I'm feeling right. So I'll fight all three of y'all. I was looking at the Andy Ruiz fight as if Jarrell had won that fight, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. Like absolutely.
And it's not as if Andy Ruiz did not put on a show, but I felt as though somehow, some way we missed that Jarrell, like the Jarrell Miller part where like the judges missed where he was really hitting him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then of course, Ruiz showed his hand. I knew when Ruiz broke his hand in that 5th round. I saw that happen. And I was like, okay, something's wrong. He's not swinging his hand. And I felt like it turned just enough to where even if it was a split decision, I would have given it to Jarrell.
Yeah. No, I thought he definitely got fucked. He should have won that fight. Turkey looked like he was wishing it was in Saudi Arabia, so he could be like, "Hey, what did you do?" Like that. He did not look happy.
No. I think of course when they're on his home turf, he has way more control over the comings and goings. Let's say, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? But in reality, just like you said, Bobby, to have a fight card be minimum 5 hours long, but the fights damn near from the prelims to the main card to the co-main to the main be damn near all exciting, damn near all something that we wanted to watch. And the thing for real, seriously, Inside Cruz, Pitbull. We got to see Pitbull look like him, but still somehow come up against some really good competition. Did we think that was going to happen? No, I personally did not, but it really did. That's what makes their cards exciting. And I once again, you know, the man behind the man, I think is Eddie Hearn, and he's really, you know, he's playing like, you know, the fight whisperer. He's like, yo, this guy really can fight. Put him with this guy. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm sure Turkey Al Sheikh has people, you know, who help him out or whatever. But definitely Eddie Hearn, who knows boxing, who knows Hispanic boxing very well, is putting these fighters up there for him. And I think Turkey Al Sheikh is like, well, I got the money. But yeah, I think that both of y'all made really good points where Canelo's being either respectable about the Berlanga fight, which is happening first, or he's like, yeah, I hate how you stop saying my name. I know you're rich. Like, I'm rich too. You know what I mean? Like, rich people fight about things that me and you will never fight about. Like, he said my name online again. I don't want to do the fight. That and leave it at that. You know what I mean? But
well, I don't care. I don't care how rich Canelo is. He ain't Turkey Al Sheikh rich. You know?
No, sir. You're not. He rich now. Canelo rich, but not Turkey Al Sheikh rich. No.
Yeah.
That ceremony when they brought him in the ring was wild. Like my girl was watching it with me, and she's like, "What are they doing? Like, they clearly just want his money." And like, you know, if she can like sum that up in 2.5 seconds, just imagine like the rest of everyone's perception on that.
Yeah.
Like, that was a pretty wild thing to have. Like, but at the same time, I know why they did it. They want that money.
They want that money. They want that perception of, you know, hey, you know, we will take care of you here in America. So come back. You know, the amount of money and the amount of spectacle that we didn't see, but there was a full Eminem set going on up there, bro. It's a lot of money, like 4 Eminem songs, and he was there all night, probably doing cool stuff, like kicking it with
probably
Turkey
made more money than anyone on the card.
I'm like, are you serious?
You got to pay a lot of money to get Eminem out of Michigan, much less you know on stage with the, you know. So, real quick, let me ask you guys though: are you worried about Crawford going up against Canelo if that fight happens because of the hits he took and so much having to go up in weight with?
And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to say no, because Crawford has been creeping up. This is his 4th belt in another weight class. He's doing something crazy that's really unseen, unheard of, unless you're talking about Roy Jones, and not just getting the belts, but being good in the weight classes. If he takes more time to put on weight, just, you know, because this is an MMA show. So remember, John Jones took 1.5 years, almost 2 years to be a full-fledged heavyweight. He walked around with the weight. He ate with the weight. He practiced with his dog with the weight. He went to the gun range with the weight. Then he got into the ring and practiced and wrestled with the weight. Then he took care of everybody in front of him, of course. I think if this fight happens in September with Berlanga, let's say Canelo wins, we won't see a Crawford and Canelo fight until June, July, like seriously, this time next year, because, you know, Canelo money going to be so long, he won't have to fight nobody for the rest of the year and even by at the beginning of next year. But the big draw, Canelo's last fight, you know, when I can't remember when Mexican Heritage Month is, but
September.
September. Something like that, Canelo's last ride against Bud Crawford. And I think that would be the biggest thing ever if he did that. You know what I mean? And for Bud Crawford too, because it's very rare that you have 2 figures this big in boxing who are close in weight. You know what I'm saying? We got Tank Davis. Tank Davis too small to fight Canelo. Don't get me wrong. Canelo would take the money, but Tank Davis is too small to fight Canelo. Tank Davis is too small to fight Bud Crawford. But you know who's close enough to do that? Bud Crawford and Canelo. I think it's a possibility. I think it will happen. But for both fighters, the amount of money that they'll make, they're walking away. That's it. I think that's it.
Bobby, you got any final thoughts on that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I am kind of holding out hope. Canelo finally fights Benavidez. Like, if I could only choose one out of those two, it would probably be that. I obviously would still have interest if him and Bud got matched up, but I don't know if I just have a little bit too recency bias from it getting poo-pooed, but I just don't like know if they're going to make it immediately. So like if I had to choose one, it would probably be the Benavidez fight. I think that's a little bit more intriguing for me, but I would still eat both of them up.
And I'm gonna stop, and I'm gonna end it with this. I think Canelo is so smart that fight would be either the very, very last one, or because there's too many people claiming for it, or just on the strength of being a boxer. That's like the worst matchup ever for him. The worst one. They're the same size in weight, but that height difference is why they call him El Monstro or whatever, because he's such a large person at that weight class. That's ridiculous for Canelo. You know how we used to play Super Punch Out, and that's Canelo fighting Benavidez, reaching up to jump and not trying to knock him out. So I think that's the worst fight that Canelo can make, and it would only be made if there's nothing else for him to do.
Now you know why I want to see it.
Hey, well, folks, it's been another great episode of Headkicks and Haymakers. We'll be back next week, 8 o'clock Central, 9 Eastern, right here. Again, it'll be UFC 305 preview. Man, I feel like we just got over 304, and here we are, 305. We didn't talk about this week's card because it's in the Apex, and we refuse to talk about shitty cards in the Apex. So, somebody said he called her dumb. Julia A. Nice. You basically called us on a live podcast.
No, I didn't. No.
Did we poo-poo on her on accident?
No, not at all. I was saying that if she's able to, realize it's so obvious that, Turkey.
It's Bobby's old lady.
Okay.
The whole sports washing angle,
he didn't call you. Hey, we'll come to Bobby's defense. He did not call you stupid.
As men with wives, he would never do that.
He was actually giving you a compliment about how you were able to. Compliment, Julia. Compliment.
And he said he's going to cook this weekend. I don't know if you heard that part.
Yeah.
Indeed.
All right. We got Bobby at the doghouse, hopefully. Nonetheless, we'll be back next Wednesday, 9 Central, 9 Eastern, 8 Central for UFC 305, headlined by Izzy versus DDP. The bloodbath that, it's going to be a good one. Excited for that one. Co-main is Steve Erceg versus, his name's escaping me.
France. Kai Car
fans. Thanks, Bobby. So, nonetheless, we'll be back then. Oh, she just said she's messing, so we got you out the
we got him out.
Anyway, we'll see you then, folks. Be a friend, tell a friend, like, subscribe, share. We'll see you guys next week, 8 o'clock Central, 9 Eastern, for another episode of Great Headkicks and Haymakers. For my guy Whit, our guy Bobby as well. We'll see you then. I'm going to hit that outro. Y'all have a good week. Hopefully,
enjoy the Apex.
Yeah, enjoy the Apex.
I'll be right there with you watching that shit.
Yeah.
Well, you want me to get